Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, where it's all about creating the life you want, the business you want, and making a real difference. Join us in unlocking the code to true success. And now your host, Tony Caliendo, Master Coach with Rethink Coaching.
Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, episode number 127. I'm Tony Caliendo, Master Coach here at Rethink Coaching. And as always, I want to thank you for sharing your time with me. Time truly is our greatest asset. And the fact that you're willing to share your time with me does not go unnoticed. So thank you so much for being part of this today. Today's topic, I think, is really timely and important as we're still moving into a relatively new year. And what I want to challenge you on today is to think about what is your definition of success? Whose definition of success are you living? And I want to share with you, this is something that one of my coaches worked on with me a while ago. And it was one of those really simple yet impactful questions that made me really pause and understand why I was feeling the feelings I was experiencing about success, why I was somewhat disconnected, why it didn't feel worthy of success or worthy of celebration. There was just a lot going on. And I will tell you that one question made me really stop and step back and ask, whose definition of success am I living by? And for me, I've shared this with you all. I had amazing parents. Their definition of success was based on what they experienced in their past from their parents, from their peers, from their professions. One was a nurse, one was a pharmacist. And they had their own definition of success. To them, the ultimate success was having a house, having food on the table, having money on hand, and paying for our college education, the three of us. That was really important to them. And they leaned into that definition. They also believed in having a strong Christian Catholic background was a signal and sign of success. So as I grew up into an adult and started down my journey of my professional career, I really used their definition of success because it's what I knew. And for me, and this is not meant to reflect badly on my parents in any way, for me, the bar wasn't that high to do those things, yet I lived into it. Then as I entered further into my professional career, I started adopting the definitions of other people, my organization, the corporation I worked for, the department I was in, the leader I worked for, and started bringing that on. And it wasn't until my coach asked me that one question that things became crystal clear for me that I needed to redefine success for me. So the number one thing I want you to think about today is most of us never stop and define success. We inherit it, handed down by our parents, maybe by our industry norms, social media, income brackets, peer groups, whoever it is, we've typically been influenced as to what our story of success is. And if you really sat with and asked yourself, when did I decide this mattered? Meaning, when did I decide that definition of success mattered to me? When did I make that decision? And realize, where did it come from? I think it's normal that it comes from our parents. It comes from the industry we're in. Social media, though, has been one that has made a huge impact on what people define as their version of success. I've shared this before. It's one of the things that we don't do very often is celebrate our failures, and we certainly don't do that publicly. So if you were just an observer, you'd never seen Facebook, Instagram, all the social media outlets before ever, and you were to use it like a case study and look at it, you would truly think that everybody, the majority of people, were living a very successful life through their post, their fabulous vacations, their wonderful family, their promotions at work, what they're able to purchase, their homes, everything about it is a reflection of success. And I believe social media has had an impact on us as well in terms of inheriting someone else's definition of success. So I think if there was ever a study done back when, looking back into what social media impact did, I think that's going to come up in that study. But also know that number two, there's a hidden cost of adopted success. So there's a hidden cost of chasing the wrong definition it doesn't just waste time, it drains life. I mean, you're chasing somebody else's story and you're doing your best to make it your own. When I realized that I wasn't falling into my own definition of success because I never stopped to write it down and create it, I was achieving success at a very high level according to the definition I was using, but I still felt a bit empty. I felt somewhat relieved that I achieved something, but not fulfilled. And I was anxious to change the goal, anxious to move the goalpost, if you will. And how you know this might be happening is if you just pause for a minute and assess your business, your life, your relationship, whatever it is that you want to take a hard look at what your definition of success is. If you take a look at, let's say, your business and you're achieving goals and you're moving forward and you're doing things that other people view as amazing in your career, you might be experiencing burnout, resentment, or restlessness. And think about that. That's a huge signal that something is out of alignment. If you're living into your story of success, when you achieve these things, you're not going to feel empty. You're going to feel pretty dang good and pretty accomplished at what you were able to do. If you are feeling resentment, it's because you're doing something that's out of alignment. It's not your path. It's not your story, but we're leaning into it as if it is. So just really take a moment to step back and say, am I experiencing success on my current definition, which may not be mine, but it is yours because you're using it. And am I experiencing any of these things, burnout, resentment, or restlessness? And if you are, pretty good indication that you're leaning into the wrong definition of success. Number 3 is why achieving success doesn't feel like you thought it would. Gosh, I think this one is humorous in a way, right? We chase what we think is going to make us happy. This kind of ties in conversation we've had before about destination addiction. I'll be happy when, I'll be happy when I have $1 million. I'll be happy when I have a house. I'll be happy when I drive a Mercedes. I'll be happy when. And when you achieve that, but you aren't fulfilled once you get there, or it's very temporary, you're standing in the wrong shoes. You're standing in somebody else's shoes of what success really means. So why achieving success doesn't feel like you thought it would could simply just because it was never your story. The thing I know about success for me, now that I'm really crystal clear on what that means for myself, my companies, my relationship with Reagan and my family and my friends, is I'm crystal clear. And when I achieve these landmarks, I actually feel really good. And what I know to be true is my brain enjoys that level of progress, not just arrival. So it looks at it as making progress, not like, oh, I'm here. I've achieved this. Now I need to be really happy. I need to feel a certain way because I've done the impossible and I've achieved this level of success. If you find yourself saying, hey, I should feel happier than this, that's a big clue that you are not attaching to the right version of success. Success without meaning or a true definition. So you not having a true definition for you, what success means to you, tends to create this urgency for more, not peace. If you think about that, if you've arrived at this defined level of success, but you're not internally feeling joy or happiness, or it doesn't feel like you thought it was going to feel like, what you're tempted to do is, I should just do more. Because if I did more and achieved more and had more, I would actually enjoy success, when that's not the truth. That's part of the conversation I'm having in discussions in my upcoming book, Less Over More, is more does not create peace. The right more does, but just chasing more for the sake of a feeling is not the right or the best path for you to be taking. Number 4 talks about comparison. So comparison is the engine that fuels borrowed definitions. Comparison quietly decides what success should look like. So we rarely compare our values, but we often and most often compare our outcomes. Social media, compresses context and exaggerates results. I mean, think about it. You see a picture or you see a 30-second video. That's pretty compressed context. Yet it shows you the ta-da moment that looks like this is what success should look like for me. I mean, look how happy they are. They're on their new boat. They're on a vacation. They're doing whatever they're doing. That should be my sign too. Yet if it's borrowed, it does not look like that for you. You don't want their success. You want how you think it feels. I'm going to say that again. It's not necessarily you want their success. You want how you think it feels. I know those are connected, yet I do want you to think about this for a second. It's you see those pictures, you see the posts, you see all of the stuff that people are talking about and celebrating their big success, and you want to experience that. You want to know how that feels. That's what we're chasing. And if we're chasing the wrong definition, we're not going to feel that. We're not. We're going to feel flat. So comparison to other people's version of success, remember your comparison usually to outcomes, not to values, can create inflated expectations, can create artificial pressure, and can accelerate timelines for you. All of this is really just putting pressure on you to get to that definition so you can experience the ta-da moment. And sadly, when you get there and it's not yours, you may not ever experience that moment of how you think it feels. Or if you do, it may be fleeting. You may experience it for just a moment. And then reality kicks in and you realize that you're leaning into somebody else's story. Success must be season specific, or it can become a trap. If I think back to what success looked like when I was 30, gosh, it is completely different than my story now. Even if I would have done the exercise that I do with clients about defining and how do you define your success, even if I would have done that at 30, it probably would be different than it is now, just because you're at a different season, right? Your energy is different, your priorities are different, your responsibilities are different, and your capacity is different. So just know that as you define success, I think your core values will remain the same. Yet there's key elements of what success looks like for you that are going to change. So when you're 30 versus when you're 65 and thinking about retiring, success can look very different. I believe your core values are always going to be the same. So if your core values of what it looks like to be successful, if one of them is to be a kind, compassionate human being, I don't think that's going to change from 30 to 60. I do think its level of impact may change though. It may move up in the ranks and reorder those values. I don't think the core values are going to change, but it's okay if success is season-based, meaning different phases in your life, different times, when you're single, when you're married, when you're in a relationship, when you're getting ready to retire, when you're taking a promotion, moving companies, those are all seasons. And I think it's really important that you sit and you take a look at, do I know my definition of success in this next chapter? So how do we start defining your version of success? Because here's what I know. Clarity begins with subtraction, not addition. This is another concept from the book, Less Over More, is clarity really does begin with subtraction, removing the things that are not important. And that begins with removing other people's definition of success that's not in alignment with you. So if I subtract those things out of the equation, I begin to have clarity on what's really important to me in terms of success. And I love to ask this question. If no one could see this, would it still matter? So if no one could see, like if you could go about your day, about your business, about your life and do what was important to you, yet nobody could see it, would it be important if you were still doing those other things? Like if you held on to the other definitions and nobody could see that, would it matter if you were doing it? I don't think it would. I think what matters is you focusing on the right things to do. And you may also ask yourself, what am I protecting by chasing this now? It's funny, I've been on both sides of the fence on this. I've been an employee and I've been an employer. And What I find refreshing as an employer is watching someone take a position, a project, a program, and run with it. As long as it's in alignment with our company core values, when they take it in and they're living into their version of success and it's moving towards goal, it's amazing. Yet a lot of people are chasing what they think the story of success should be. And that's when you see people run into confusion, run into chaos, because their mind is scrambling to figure out what's the thing that I should be doing so others see me as successful versus what should I be doing that's in alignment with my definition of success that will show up in the results. What is your current story of success costing you? And what would enough actually look like? I think those are really powerful questions for you as you're starting to define your version of success. If nobody could see what you're doing and living into other people's version of success, would it matter? If you could do what you wanted to do and you got the results, would it matter? Those are powerful questions to start leaning into. What's my story around success? When you start defining your version, right? So when you stop chasing somebody else's definition, when you look at the cost that it's really impacting you and your team and your business and your results, when you look at all of that, you should realize that success should create alignment, not tension. It should give energy, not just status. It should feel honest, even if it looks boring to others. And I love that, right? I know there's so many different personalities out there and different things that people do that allow them to feel successful. Some of those things for me, especially if it's very numbers based, looks really boring. But to somebody else, to create a spreadsheet or a flow chart or something that moves the business forward is feeling really good to them. They get energy out of it and they're in alignment. They're living into their version of success. They're creating tools and resources that are going to help the company move forward. So pay attention to these things. If you feel out of alignment and you feel really tense, and every day you get up and it's a push to get into action or it's a push to find the motivation, you're most likely not living your story. You're living somebody else's. Number 7, less over more. Success that you can actually sustain. This is really important. True success simplifies. It does not complicate. It lessens pressure. You have fewer borrowed goals. So the goals that you set, you own at a really, really high level. It allows you to have clarity around your priorities. That is huge. Clarity is on the path to certainty. When you are clear on your priorities, it makes a huge difference. You're going to be present. You're going to be more aware, more engaged, and you're going to have peace with progress. Not like, okay, I got here. I'm not experiencing what I thought I should. So I'm going to keep on going until I finally get that feeling, which you're never going to get when you're living into somebody else's story. Just remember, success is not just about doing more. It's not. It's about doing the right more on purpose. So I do want you to just kind of take a step back after listening to these talking points with you and these values I'm sharing with you, and to really sit with and say, what is my story? I shared this with a group of people when I was selling real estate and in production. I worked for a company that rewarded at a really high level recognition for different levels of production and income, and just you were measured, constantly measured and compared. And when I hit those levels of success, it was great, but it never felt like it was mine. It never was a ta-da moment for me. It was like, okay, great. I got another award. I got invited to a breakfast. I got recognition, but it really wasn't the definition of success. For me, when I was selling real estate, the definition of success for me was helping people get into a home that they loved and helping people get out of a home that would allow them to move on to their next chapter, whether it was moving to a different city, different job, different location, bigger house, smaller house, whatever it was. That's really was my definition of success, but I didn't get that for a very long time. And so when I was living into the broker's definition, my borrowed definition of success, I never felt that energy. I never felt that euphoric high of when I hit the goal because it was defined around somebody else's story. So take a moment and really look at what you do and what defines success for you. Once you're clear on that, I promise you everything will fall into alignment and you'll have a clear vision of what you can eliminate, subtract, so that you can create the space to do more of the right more that's in alignment. All right, team, as always, if you have any questions about this or anything else, please reach out to me. Tony@rethinkcoaching.com is my email address. You can find me on all social media outlets. Happy to answer any questions about this or anything else. So cheers to success and cheers to your version and story of success. You're unique. Go make your definition and your story of success unique to you. We'll talk to you soon. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you must come check out the Mindset Architect Group Coaching Program. It's our monthly program where we explore the power of your mindset, help you identify what you truly want in business and life, and then help you reach those goals. Come check us out at rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. That's rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. We'll see you there.